Hello and welcome to the Coded Dojo. How is everyone doing today? Are we all ready to do some coding for our Space Invaders game? We're going to make the enemies today. So this is what it's going to look like when it's done. We've got all these nice rows of these bats all in different positions. It kind of looks a little bit like the way that Space Invaders has the different rows of different looking pixelated enemies. So should be, and then as you can see, the more enemies that we shoot, the more they disappear. And the faster they go, I should say, the faster they move. So this block is slowly speeding up, and each time the block hits the edge of the screen, they speed up. They move down a bit and they change direction. The whole block working together, behaving together. And then the way that I've got this set up as well, there are multiple levels, and each level gets a bit harder. And we might even see what happens if some of the Space Invaders hit the bottom. Uh-oh. We'll see if I can sort of stay safe here and see what happens if a Space Invader hits the bottom. Oh, we've got a bit of a glitch now. I may not have done that bit just yet. Oh yes, there was a solution to that, but we might not get to that today. So that's what we're going to be programming, and we're going to be programming all these Space Invaders to work. How's it going, Falcon Fablap? How's it going, Cool Trish? Lovely to have you here. I don't know if you can see, but I've got up to the right, just near my mouse, I've got a little cat purring away. Isn't that right, Banshee? So there is, so depending on how much, so this is a little glitch if the Space Invaders get to the bottom, that we can fix if we have enough time. But for now, we'll see if we can get through all of this, because there's a fair bit of code to get through. And also, I'm just going to give you a sneak preview of what we're going to be doing after we've coded all the enemies. So I've coded in a little cheat for me that skips me through to level 10, and watch what happens when I hit level 10. We have ourselves a boss battle. So I'll show you some of that, more of that towards the end of the session, because I don't want to show you that just yet, because we're going to be focusing on the enemies for now. So I hope everyone's been keeping well. If you haven't seen one of these videos before, it's live streamed. So if you're watching this later, after the live stream's gone out, feel free to skip ahead. If because you have that technology, you'll be able to pause me. If I'm going too fast, you'll be able to skip ahead. If you want to sort of go a little further forwards. Everyone who's in the chat, make sure that you are positive and encouraging in everything that you say to your fellow ninjas in the chat. And don't be alarmed if there's some latency, a bit of a delay between you sending me a message through chat and a delay between the video displaying of what my reaction is. Don't worry about that. And if you need help with your project, make sure that you've got it saved on the Scratch website, and make sure that it's shared, and then remind me of what your Scratch name is, and I'll be able to look up your project, and we can fix it together if we're into any problems or glitches. Okay, so what we'll do is we will open up our Space Invaders game. What we have so far should be here. So I'm going to move this over here. Okay, that all seems good. Okay. So I'm going to share this, what we've got so far in the chat, just in case there's anyone who wasn't here last week, who's currently in the chat. You'll be able to click on that link and click remix, and you'll be up to date from what we did last week. So far, what we have is we have this little rocket ship at the bottom. It moves left and it moves right, and it fires little bullets, little projectiles. So what we need to do now is we need to program this bat sprite to make all of the Space Invaders. So I think that's enough. I always leave it about 5 minutes just in case more people are going to come along to the live stream. And I think that's enough time's gone past. So let's get ready to code. Everyone make sure you're nice and comfortable. Open up Scratch. Hit Remix if you're going to be using my project. The one that we've got so far. And let's have a look inside. So we should already have this bat sprite. So let's start making this bat sprite make some clones of itself. So we're going to make some rows of clones, and they are going to, and then once we've done that, then we'll start programming the clones to move around and sort of see what their behaviors are. Okay, so what we need to do, first of all, is we need to go to events. We need to make sure we're in the bat sprite. We need to grab out a when green flag clicked. And we need to, let's see, we need to make the original sprite hide itself. So everybody go up to the top left corner into the looks category. Look near the bottom and you should find hide. Drag that out and make this nice and big so you guys can see it if you're watching along. And let's go to my blocks. And so that's the red category on the left side. And let's look in the top left corner for make a block and click on make a block. So we're going to name this block create space invaders. Okay, press OK. So you should now have this define create space invaders. So what we're going to do now is we're going to grab out create space invaders from the top left corner, and you should be able to put it right underneath where it says hide. So we should have when green flag clicked hide create space invaders, and we should have our little define create space invaders off to the side here. Now if you've done functions before, what a my block is everything that we put inside, everything we put underneath where we've got define create space invaders, all of that will happen every time we use the little my block, the create space invaders block. It will do everything underneath define create space invaders. So this is a really useful way of getting a big block of code, a big amount of code, and packaging it up into a little custom block that you can use, and you can use that whenever you want to. So we're going to make this code create a grid of space invaders so that if you want to do multiple levels, you can, and you don't need to copy all the code out again and again and again. You'll just, every time you want to create a grid of space invaders, you'll just run this function, this my block, saying create space invaders. Okay, so so that's all we need so far for, so let's look in underneath define create space invaders. Let's put some code in here for now. Let's get this grid happening. So first of all, our bat's a little bit big, isn't it? Let's make it a bit smaller. So look across to the right side of the screen in the middle where it should say size 100. You should still have the bat selected. So select where it says 100 and type in 20. There we go. Now this bat looks very small, I know, but trust me, that's how small we want it. You can make some changes to this later if you want, but for now, just go with this. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we are going to get this bat to go to a little point sort of near around about here, where I've got the bat here. Maybe a little bit further left. We'll see how we go. And we are going to make this block of space invaders. So first of all, we need to make this bat go up into the top left corner. So go to motion, the dark blue category. We're going to use a go to XY. So look about 5 down for go to X0, Y0. Drag that out and put it underneath define create Space Invaders. So if you understand coordinates, then you'll know that there are numbers tied to everywhere on the screen. The X numbers define how far left or right you are, and the Y numbers define how high or low you are. So just for now, if you don't understand coordinates, don't panic. I'll give you the exact coordinates to make this bat go up into the corner that we want. So let's type in next to where it says X minus 220. So minus 220. And for the Y, so you should have Y equals 0. We're going to type in 150. So let's hit the green flag, and you should see that your bat goes invisible. But if we could see it, it would be about here on my screen in the top left corner. That's perfect. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to make 5 rows of these Space Invaders, and each row is going to be 10 Space Invaders long. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 2 different repeats. Now, if you've done the breakout game that we made, this code will be familiar. If not, don't panic, just follow me. Everyone go to events, the yellow category on the left. Not events, control. I always make that mistake. Control. Go to control, the orange category on the left, and look for repeat 10. Drag out repeat 10. And then drag out another repeat 10 and put it inside the first repeat 10. So now we're going to repeat. So now we should have repeat 10, and inside that repeat 10. So click on that first 10, the one that's higher. Click on that and type in 5. This is going to be our 5 rows of Space Invaders. The repeat 10 is going to be our 10 Space Invaders long for each row. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to motion, the top left corner, and we are going to look for change X by 10. That's about halfway down the motion codes. Drag out change X by 10 and put it inside our repeat 10. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to make the bat, the Space Invader, is going to make a copy of itself, and then it's going to move and make another copy, and then it's going to move, it's going to make another copy, and it's going to move, and make another copy, and then it's going to move, and then it's going to go all the way down and do that again, so until it makes all of the rows of the Space Invaders that we want. Okay? So changing X by 10 is not going to be quite enough. So click on that 10 next to the change X by. Type in 25. That should be okay. Let's see what that looks like. Oh, actually, let's try 35. And you can always change this later. This is going to be how close your Space Invaders are going to be sideways. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to control, the orange category on the left. Look towards the bottom for create clone of myself. Drag that out and put it underneath change X by 35. Okay, so this repeat 10 is going to make 10 Space Invaders in a row, each of them about 35 pixels away from each other. So what we need to do now is at the end of the row, we need to go down to the next row and start again. So we need to go back a bunch left, and we need to go down a little bit. So let's first go down a little bit. So up into the top left corner, click on motion, the dark blue category, and look sort of in the middle, sort of towards the bottom for change Y. Make sure you get change Y, because remember the Y makes it go down. Hello, kitten. Drag out that change Y. Now this needs to go right here. It needs to go right underneath our repeat 10. It can't be inside the repeat 10. It's got to be right underneath. Because this repeat 10 is going to be the row. At the end of the row, we need to go down and back to start the next row. So seeing as we're spacing the bats out 35 pixels sideways, let's space them out 35 pixels up and down as well. So we've got that change Y by 10. Click on that 10 and type in 35. Okay, so now I've got change Y by 35. In fact, actually, we need it to be change Y by minus 35. The minus is very important because if we say change Y by 35, it will go up 35 pixels. So we need to put in a minus so it goes down 35 pixels. Okay, and then let's just reset the bat back to the X position back where it started, which, if you remember, the X position that we started off at was a number minus 220. So you should still be in motion. Look for set X. Look for set X 2. So grab out set X. Can't be change X and can't be set Y. Set X. And put that right underneath our change Y by minus 35. And mine already says minus 220. You might need to click on the number next to set X2 and then change that to minus 220. All right. And then we can do something that's kind of cool. Go to looks in the top left corner and look about 6 down and you should see a line called next costume. Drag out next costume and put that right underneath set X2. Set X2 minus 220. Drop that in. So now we should have these 2 repeats. One of the repeats does the 5 columns. The other repeat does each of the 10 Space Invaders in the column. Let's hit, and we can't test it yet because we haven't told our Space Invaders to do anything yet. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is we need to give our clones, because we're making all these clones of our bats, we need to give our clones some instructions. So go to Control, the orange category on the left, and look near the bottom and you should find a When I Start as Clone. Pop this off by itself, When I Start as Clone. Put that down. And the first thing that we're just going to do is make it so that our Space Invaders are visible. And then we can actually see what we're doing all of this for. So go up into the top left corner, look for looks, and look near the bottom and you should have a show. Drag out show and put it right underneath When I Start as Clone. And then, once you've got that, you should have When I Start as Clone, show, hit go. And we should have, and there we have it. We should have this nice grid of Space Invaders. Of course, we can't shoot them yet. But that's really good. That's awesome. Okay, so we've got our Create Space Invaders code working. And I really quite like how this looks. You've got all these different bats all like looking different in different rows. This is very reminiscent of Space Invaders to me. Okay, cool. Well, let's move on to putting some more code into the clones. So now here's where things get interesting. So what we are going to do, there we go, is, well, first of all, actually, before we do anything else, let's hit go again, and and hit go a couple of times. Now, what do you notice? What you might notice is that the Space Invaders don't just appear, they slowly get built that way. The code that's running them is kind of having to make them individually, and it's not doing it very fast because we can watch them all being made. Now, you might like that. You might think, do you know what? I prefer it that way. But if we wanted to stop it from being that way, there's a bit of code that we can do, or rather, there's a setting that we can change that will make it so that when we hit go, the grid just appears all at once. Bang! All the Space Invaders all at once. So to do that, in your bat code, look for where it says define create Space Invaders, and right-click on define. Oh no, that doesn't work. Oh no, it does work. Sorry, yeah, we right-click on define, and then you normal click on edit. Whatever you do, don't press delete. So normal click on edit when you right-click on define. Normal click on edit. Now there's a little tick box here. Can you see? So this is how we would rename it if we wanted to. But also, can you see there's a little tick box that says run without screen refresh? That means it will run this code really fast without waiting for the graphics to catch up. So click on that box so that it's ticked. We've ticked run without screen refresh. And now when you hit go, bang! We've got these Space Invaders just appear every time. There's no delay. We don't see them slowly being made. So if ever you want to run a my block, and you want the my block to happen really fast, that's a really useful setting to remember. Run without screen refresh. Okay, so you don't want to do that with everything because it will make some things speed up too much and your game might stop working properly, but it's really useful for some things. Okay, so we've made our grid of Space Invaders. We've made it appear all at once. Bang! All at once. Now, let's put some more code into our when I start as clone. So what we're going to do is we are going to create a variable. And this variable is going to be unique for each bat. So we're going to go to each individual clone is going to have its own variable. So the way that we're going to do this is we're going to go to variables, the dark orange category on the left near the bottom of the categories. Make sure we're looking at this when I start as clone code. So we should have when I start as clone show. Then what we're going to do is we are going to get out set my variable to 0, drag that out and put it underneath show. We're going to make a new variable now. Top left corner, click on make a variable. We're going to call this variable, we could call it height. So height, that's how high the bats are going to be. Now there's a reason we're going to do it this way. But what we need to do is we need to make sure that we click on, there's a little box for this sprite only. And what that means is each bat will have its own height variable. They won't be sharing the same one. So a variable is basically going to be a box where we're going to store, in this case, a number. We're just going to keep a number, and that number is going to maintain how high the bats should be, so that each time they hit the wall, they come down a little bit, and they keep coming down further and further towards the player. Okay, So make sure that you've got clicked for this sprite only in your height variable. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we've got our set my variable to 0. Click that white triangle in our set my variable to 0, just underneath where it says show, and change my variable to height. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the top left corner to the motion codes, and we're going to look all the way near the bottom for this little rounded Y position variable. It's so yeah, look for Y position. It's near the very bottom of the dark blue motion codes. Drag that out, and you'll notice this little rounded Y position will fit just nicely inside the 0, where it says set height to. So now we've got set height to Y position. That's going to make sure that each individual bat stores its knowledge of how high it should be, how high or low it should be on the screen. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to create a forever loop. So we're going to go to control, the orange category on the left. We're going to look for forever, which is the third one down, drag that out and put it underneath set height to Y position. So now what we're going to do is we are going to code in the movement for our bats. And we're also going to code in some other behaviors. So first of all, let's go to motion. Let's look down until we find set Y to. Make sure it says set Y to and then a number. Drag that out and put it inside the forever loop. And then we need to get out a change X by. So now we've got change X by 10 and set Y to -25 or whatever number you might have. So we're going to go back to variables, the dark orange category. Look up on the top left corner for height. Drag out height and put that in the set Y to height. So make sure it says set Y to height. Okay, so now, because what we're going to do is we are going to change this variable to send a message to all the bats, or to have all the bats adjust in with their own height variable how high they should be. So there is a reason why we're doing it this way. So don't worry about it. The reason is, if you were to do, there's possibly a simpler way you could do it, but if we were to do it that way, not all of the bats get the message. So this is actually a better way of doing it. Okay, so we've got so if you didn't do it this way, when the bats hit the wall and come down, some of them would get it wrong, and some of them would not come down properly, and all the nice grid would get all out of alignment. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to hit go. I think there we go. So far, every time we hit go, all of the bats just move off to the side of the screen. They move quite quickly as well. That's good. That's good. We can so they're all maintaining the correct height, and they're all moving to the right of the screen. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do some very cool tricks with variables and operators. This is going to be quite cool. So what we're going to do is we are going to go to operators first. So click on operators and look for the third one down. This is actually the multiply operator, or you might call it times. You know, if you say 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 3 is 9. So that's what this is. And normally in maths, you would use an X, but in computer programming, we use a star. So drag that out and put it over the 10 in our change x by 10. What we are going to do is we're going to have two different variables times each other, and that's going to tell the bats which direction they should be moving, and it's also going to be telling them how fast they should be moving. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to variables. So you should have your change x by something times something, or something multiplied by something. We're going to make two new variables. So click on make a variable in the top left corner. Now it's very important that both of these variables say for all sprites, because all of the bats need to make sure they're going in the same direction and at the same speed. We don't want them having different speeds in different directions. That would be terrible. That's not how Space Invaders works. So first of all, the first variable we're going to use is speed. We could even call this bat speed if we wanted to be specific. So yeah, we'll call this bat speed. You could call it Space Invader speed, but bat is a lot easier to type. And then we're going to make another variable and call this bat direction. Okay, so we've got bat speed and bat direction. So drag out the bat speed and put it in that first socket in our multiply variable operator. And then drag out direction and put it in the other one. It actually doesn't matter which way around these go. You could have direction first, then speed after if you wanted as well. It doesn't actually matter. But you should now have change x by bat speed times bat direction. Now, of course, we haven't, these are both 0 at the moment, these variables. So we're going to need to change this. We're going to need to put some code to set the speed and the direction. So now we're going to make some more my blocks that we're going to come back to later. So go to my blocks, look in the top left corner, and click on make a block. The first one that we're going to these are going to be two different functions, two different behaviors that the bat is going to do. So the first one is going to be called die. This is what happens if the bat gets shot. So press OK, and now you should have this define die off by itself somewhere. Drag out that die and put it somewhere in your forever loop. It can actually be, could be on top actually, yeah. We could put it right underneath forever, why not? And then we're gonna make another function. So you should have a little die underneath forever. And then the top left corner, click on make a block, and we're gonna call this one bounce off edge. This is gonna be the code that changes the direction of all of the Space Invaders when they hit the wall and they need to start moving back in the other direction. So press OK. So you should have these two defines, just put them off by themselves right for the time being. We'll use those later. But for now, grab out bounce off edge and put that right underneath the forever, where it says forever. So now we've got our forever loop that says bounce off edge, die, set y to height, and change x by bat speed times bat direction. So these are the four things that all the clones need to do. They need to check to see if they've been shot by the rocket ship. They need to bounce off the edge if they've reached the edge. And they need to make sure that they're in the right place, that they're moving in the right direction and the right speed. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we are going to just zoom out of your code right now and have a look for our when green flag clicked. So look for your when green flag clicked. It should just have just 2 lines underneath it so far. It's got just hide and create Space Invaders. So if you hit go, what you should have is you should have these bats that appear, these Space Invaders that appear, but they don't move. That's because their speed is set to 0. So let's change that, shall we? Let's go to variables, and let's grab out set bat direction to 0. So set variable, and then grab out another set variable to something. So click on the white triangle of our set my variable to something, and make sure that you've got set bat speed to 1 and set bat direction to 1. So now we should have, when the green flag is clicked, hide, create the Space Invaders, then after you created the Space Invaders, set the bat speed to 1 and set bat direction to 1. Let's see what that does. Let's hit go. All right, cool. They move slowly. That's good. So now they're just moving nicely and slowly. I'll just make this nice and big so you guys can see it. They're still not bouncing off the edge because we haven't programmed that yet, but they are moving. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we are going to we need to create a cooldown, because we're going to make some code that when a bat touches the edge of the screen, they send the message for all the bats, or they change the variable, the direction variable, so that all the bats start moving in the opposite direction. Now the problem is that probably you're going to get a situation where multiple bats touch the edge at the same time. And if that happens, then one bat will say, change direction, and the other bat will say, also change direction, which means that the direction gets changed twice, which means they just basically don't actually change direction at all. So what we actually need to do is, just like we made a cooldown for our shooting, we need to make a cooldown for our change direction. So what we're going to do is we are going to go to Control, the orange category, and look for Forever. Drag that out, that Forever, and put it right underneath Set Bat Direction to 1. Then what we're going to do is we're going to make another variable. So go to Variables, the dark orange category, top left corner, click on Make a Variable. This variable is going to be called Change Direction Cooldown. I'll give you some time to type this because I know it's a bit long. So Change Direction Cooldown. Make sure that it's got for all sprites clicked and press OK. So a lot of this stuff, when you're programming your own games, you'll run into these glitches and then you'll need to fix them. So the change direction cooldown is one that when I was making this game, I ran into, and then I was like, oh, I'm going to have to fix this. So when you do your own games, like you'll notice that you run into these types of problems and you'll come up with solutions, hopefully, like these. So what we're going to do is grab out this change variable by 1 and put it inside the forever loop. So we've got change, and then we're going to click that white triangle to make sure that it says change direction cooldown, and then we're going to make it go down by 1. So click on that 1 and type in -1. We're going to make sure that that change direction cooldown is always ticking down. A cooldown, if you weren't here last week, is just basically a video game saying for how long you must wait between doing something and doing that thing again. How long does it take to cool down? So we've got our change direction cooldown in place. Now what we need to do is we need to go across to our define bounce off edge code. This is a really good way of thinking about coding, is just breaking down all the different things that you need to happen. I really like doing it this way, kind of creating all of these my blocks so that you understand what each section needs to do. Whereas if you look at it all at once, it's very overwhelming and difficult to understand, difficult to read. If you break it up into chunks that all work within themselves and do a certain thing and you name it what that thing is, it's a lot easier to manage. All right, so everyone, I hope you found your define bounce off edge. We're going to put some code into that now. So for now, what we're going to do is we're going to go to control and we're going to grab out an if then. Drag out that if then and put it underneath define bounce off edge. And then go to sensing, go to the top left corner and look for touching mouse pointer, the first sensing line, drag that out, and you'll notice this six-sided shape fits just nicely in this six-sided hole in between the if and the then. Drop that in, click the white triangle, and then select edge. So now we should have define bounce off edge if touching edge then. Now, this actually, there's a better way to do this, and if you know how coordinates work, see if you can figure it out. Rather than just touching edge, you could figure out if the bats are far enough along on the right side or the left side using X coordinates to make them go down. And that way you don't run into the same glitch that we had where if they hit the bottom, they start going down very quickly. But for now, we'll do this because it's faster and less prone to go wrong. And that way you guys can figure out this better solution. And I'll probably put up in my code the better solution eventually. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go and get another if then. So go back up to control, drag out if then and put it inside the if touching edge then, because we need to make sure that our cooldown is okay for us. So we go to operators, the green category on the left, operators, and we need a less than operator. The less than operator is the arrow, the arrow pointing to the left. So it's 6 from the top. That's right, isn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, it's 7 from the top. 7 from the top. I can count to 7. So now we've got our less than operator. Put that inside our little second if then statement. And we're going to go to variables. We're going to grab out our change direction cooldown from the top left there, that little round one, and we're going to put it in the first space of our less than operator. So now we have if change direction cooldown is less than, we'll say less than 0. Why not? Less than 0. Got to make sure it's less than 0. So if our change direction cooldown is less than 0, we've got to set it back up to 10. So drag out while we're here, set variable and another set variable. So mine says, for example, bat direction, but as you guys already know, you can change that. So set, and then click on that white triangle to make sure that we've got set variable change direction cooldown. And then where it says 0, put 10. And then, now this is going to be quite clever. We're going to, so first of all, just to make sure you've got if change direction less than 0, then set change direction cooldown to 10. Okay, so set change direction cooldown to 10, which makes sense. We're resetting the clock on our cooldown. Now here's where things get interesting. So set bat direction. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to operators, and we're going to get another multiply operator. So times operator, that star symbol, which is third from the top. Drag that out and put it inside the 0. So we're going to have set bat direction to, and then we're going to go back to variables. We're going to drag out our bat direction and put it in the first socket of our multiplied operator. And the second one, we're going to type in -1. Now, some of you guys are pretty young, so you might not have covered this in maths yet. You might not have done a lot of work with minus numbers, with negative numbers. But the way that this works is it's going to, if you times something by -1, if it's a positive number, it becomes a negative number. And if it's a negative number, it becomes a positive number. So if you've already covered that in maths, great. If you don't understand that yet, if you're still a bit too young, don't worry. Just put it in exactly as I've put it in. And trust me when I say it's going to flip our direction in between two different numbers. It's either going to be 1 or -1. So what's going to, so then we need to do one more thing. Actually, first of all, let's test it. Let's see if it works. So now we should have, yeah, there we go. We've got all our bats. Now they're moving just left and right. And you can see this, if you look at the variable here, our bat direction variable, it's switching in between -1 and just 1. So it's a positive and a negative. When it's set to -1, they move left. When it's set to 1, +1, it's set, they're moving right, which is pretty cool. All right, and for the most part, and it's not always perfect, but for the most part, they're more or less staying in their grid shape, which is really cool. I really like that. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to make them move down a bit, don't we? So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a broadcast. There's probably a bit of a better way of doing this, but I think it's just easier if we do it this way. So go to events, the yellow category on the left, and look near the bottom of the yellow events codes. You should find broadcast message 1. Drag out broadcast message 1 and put it right underneath set bat direction. Put that right in there, and we're going to rename this broadcast. So click on that white triangle. We're going to say new message, and we're going to say bats move down. So this is going to be the name of the message, bats move down. And so the reason that we need to broadcast this message is because we need to send this message in a way so that each of the individual clones can receive it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to drag out a when I receive message 1. Drag that out, put it off by itself. This is going to be nice and simple. Click on that white triangle next to message 1 and select bats move down. And we are going to change the variable that each bat has of how high it's supposed to be at any point in time. So go to variables, look for change variable, drag that out, and put it right underneath when I receive bats move down. So this is what you should have. Click on that white triangle of the variable and make sure that you've got selected height. And where it says change height by 1, click on that 1 and type in, let's try -10. Let's not make it too crazy to start off with. Let's see how this goes. So hit go. Okay, cool. So now we've got our enemies. They are spawning. They are moving down. They are staying more or less in their grid shape. We can't shoot them yet. And we don't have multiple levels yet. But I think this is a really good start. So I think what we'll do is we will spend next session finishing off the enemy code. And then the 2 sessions after that, I'm going to show you guys how to make the boss battle. So yeah, this is good. This is really good. Well done, everyone, for keeping up with all of this. If you get stuck, leave a comment in the YouTube comments, or send me a message on Scratch if you're following me on Scratch. You can find links to me on Scratch in the comments below. I'm going to show you guys a bit of a sneak preview of the boss battle, because I've been wanting to do a boss battle in these lessons for a really long time, and I'm really excited. So again, this is kind of what the game's going to look like sort of next week when we have these bats that can get shot, and they've got this cool effect where the whole grid of them, the whole kind of mass of the bats all speed up the more that you shoot them, and we get the if we get rid of all of them, then we just get we get to the next level. So that's pretty cool. We've got that nice effect where they flash briefly. I really think that's quite effective, just that brief flash. That's actually a trick that I picked up from another YouTuber who makes Scratch videos called Warfame, which you guys might have looked into his videos. He's very good. He's been doing Scratch videos for quite a while. So now I've got a little cheat code. I'm going to hit this button here, and it's going to take me straight through to the boss battle, which is currently happening at level 10. So this is pretty cool. We've got this octopus. Uh-oh, there we go. And it's got different behaviors. So this is a little bit of a sneak preview for after we finish coding the enemies. So this octopus, basically, you can see these different behaviors. So when it's dressed as a pirate, it's sort of charging at us. When it's got all the teacups, it's dropping teacups on us. When it's got the drum, it kind of tries to pinpoint us and charge us that way. And then it does a little rest, and then it can cycle through these different behaviors. And we use these different behaviors. We use functions to control them. So we have different functions for the teacup attack, the pirate attack, and the drum attack. Oh no! Just got there. So this is kind of how boss battles work in... Oh no! It got me. And it's got a certain amount of health as well. The boss health, how close was I got to away? Oh, I only had 22 left. I set it to 100 to begin with. So I'm really looking forward to doing that boss battle with you guys. I might even kind of make it its own sort of series. We'll see how we go. I just think that's a lot of fun. Been wanting to do that for a while. So yeah, I hope you guys all had fun with today's session. You can leave comments in the YouTube video for what you want future streams to cover. If there's a game that you would like me to do in the future. Probably the next one's going to be some kind of variation on Battle Cats, if that's something that you've played. That's a special request from one of the ninjas. And so I've been working on that game. It's going to be an interesting one. Might be a little bit hard, but we'll see how we go. As always, all the YouTuber stuff, if you want to subscribe and ring the bell, you'll get notifications of when the future live streams come up, which are every Thursday at 4 p.m. currently. So you can tune in live if you like to watch these videos afterwards. And that way you can write into the chat, you can meet some other ninjas, and if you get stuck with your code, you can ask for help, and I can give you help live on the stream. The next stream is going to be the Coding the Enemies Part 2. And until I see you guys next week, Thank you so much for being here. Falcon Fab Lab, Cool Trish. And everyone else who maybe not writing in chat. So everyone stay awesome, be cool to each other, and take care of yourselves. We'll see you next time, ninjas.